Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Seyi Adisa, and I am so delighted to be joining you again for the second edition of our webinar series in the month of September. As we started 2 weeks ago, we were talking about leadership, talking about leading with empathy. Today, we're talking about, you know it already, the imposter syndrome, self-doubt. What is it? How do we navigate it? And I'm extremely delighted to have a very good friend, someone I respect, someone that has dedicated her life and work to leadership and developing leaders, as it were. And we will be taking her on very shortly. But before that, I just want us to kindly share where we're joining from. Adekunle Ashiru, Chibuzowogo, thank you all for joining. Just let us know where you're calling in from. Yes, I know we do have people from outside Nigeria, so please just drop in the comment box. Let us know where you're joining in from today, and we'll be extremely delighted to get this conversation going in the shortest possible time. So once again, this is the second series of our webinar at the African Governance Institute for Development. Now, if you don't know, African Governance Institute for Development is an institute that has been set up to build leaders, to raise leaders, and to, you know, if you like, promote active citizenship from the citizens as well, empower citizens, so that together we can build good governance for national development. And that's the work we do at African Governance Institute for Development. So it's all about leadership, governance, and national development. And today we are dealing with our second series in the month of September under the theme of leadership. And so without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it. Ayomide Olanikpekun, thank you. Mabel Omobude, Usman Abdurrahman, Fatika, thank you all for joining. Wasi Olayemi, thank you. Olariwaju Samuel Faleye, Larry Forward, thank you. Caris Nicholas. So it's good to have all of you online, and I'm really excited. I really can't wait to get our speaker on this evening. And our speaker this evening is no other person than Kemi Ogunkoya. And I'll do very, very short introduction, but I'll like her to introduce herself. But I met Kemi a few years ago, and Kemi just strikes me as someone that is very passionate about leadership, very passionate about, you know, building leaders. The very first time we met, she gave me a book, and it was called The Leadership Guardian. And I was thinking, ooh, Leadership Guardian, this is impressive. And as you can imagine, she didn't stop there. I'm not sure if it's years later now, a couple of years later, she comes up with another leadership product, which is called Leader X, which is a leadership application that helps build leaders. So you can see she's all about leadership, building leaders, helping leaders. And I am pleased to also let you know she's one of our faculty at the African Governance Institute for Development. So I think that's enough for me. It will be lovely to hear Kemi speak. And so I'm going to yield the floor to Kemi. Kemi, good evening. Thank you once again for being here. Thank you for, you know, spending time out of your busy schedule to really share with us. But before we get into it, why don't you just introduce yourself the way you like to? Tell us about yourself, your motivations, aspirations, and why leadership, really.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Essay, for having me. I'm delighted to be here, and big thumbs up to the entire team at HH. My name is Kemi Ogunkoya, and I am a leadership development strategist, management consultant, author, and also the founder and CEO of Leader X. Passionate about raising leaders. I am, particularly dedicated to helping them develop their leadership skills, but not just leaving them where they are, also equipping them with the right skills to also seamlessly transition into higher positions. I've done this now for close to 15 years across different industries, working with leaders across different levels within the organization, building strong institutions, but developing strong people who are not just able to, impact themselves, but also impact the larger society. And I'm excited about, that the ability to be able to do that and wake up to that every day. My journey to leadership started way back, and I remember being in a particular organization. It's called Poise. Poise Nigeria, and I had the privilege to intern at Poise for the summer. And one of the things that really fascinated me was how, I was able to see people come into a realization of a higher self, right? How people were able to come to a point of realization of, you know what, I can do better, I can be better, I can impact myself, I can impact the world, I can be more intentional about my actions and even my inactions. And that really caught my attention. And I got into the HR space and saw how there seemed to be a huge gap in terms of, especially because of the experience I had had, in terms of what and how people saw possibilities and how they could improve themselves, impact themselves, and also make a difference. And that led me into the understanding of just how important leadership was, because I got to understand that it was pretty much the backbone of everything, right? If we want a change in everything, let's walk around the mindset of leaders and understand, and everyone comes to that point of realization of how important they are in impacting the world around them. So we're here, and I'm excited to have this conversation. Thank you for having me once again, Essie.
All right. Thank you, Kemi. I think John Maxwell will tell us everything rises and falls on leadership. And
Absolutely.
I think it's just a conversation that whether we're in position or not, we all carry a form of influence. And so we're all leading on one level or the other. And that's why this is important for all of us. So, Kemi, to start, I want to read some stats. You see this thing called imposter syndrome. It's either you've had it, or you think you're going to have it, or you're going through it currently. And in fact, when we posted the flyer, I saw someone say, "Oh, this is for me, I can't miss it." So I could obviously almost quickly relate that definitely people, well, if they've not gone through it, they're certainly thinking about it. But it says 75%, there's been a 75% increase on inquiries about imposter syndrome. So it means if people are doing Google searches, there's an increase in the amount of people checking what this imposter syndrome means. KPMG in 2020 said 75% of female executives have experienced imposter syndrome. Another stat says 78% of people, this is by Nerd Wallet, will or have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their career. There's another one that says 71% of CEOs and 65% of senior execs experience imposter syndrome, including low confidence and feeling incompetent. And another one says 70% will experience imposter syndrome at some point. That's a feeling of inadequacy or anxiety about your ability. And so, one of the two things I picked here, number one, there's a lot of emphasis on women, particularly. So, is this a gender thing? And the second thing is, it seems you have to go high up to start feeling like an imposter. Maybe people don't feel like imposters in regular work. Maybe you have to really be in a position of authority before you start feeling maybe I'm not, maybe they'll catch me. Maybe people will eventually know the real me can't handle this job. So what comes at you when you listen to some of these stats among leaders? And maybe I should add that Michelle Obama, the great Michelle Obama, and she had a great speech at the Democratic Convention a few weeks ago. Fantastic woman. She opened up and said, you know, sometimes in her book, Becoming, the memoir, the book, she said, I don't feel good enough. I felt I wasn't good enough. And when I hear someone like Michelle Obama say that, I'm like, come on, who are we? Come on, who is this? And then even the former Prime Minister of New Zealand as well, Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister, I mean, young woman, done very well. She did extremely well, especially during COVID. Says she struggles with self-doubt. So talk to us. What's going on? How do we, or what is this telling us?
Yeah, all right. Thank you once again. And, I remember when we spoke about this topic,
Mm-hmm,
I told you how excited I was just talking about
mm-hmm,
it. And that's because it's pretty much as real as it gets, right?
mm,
And it's also the fact that a lot of us or a lot of people don't know just how much of a blocker this self doubt and imposter syndrome, is,
mm,
and how much it impacts and affects us.
mm,
Some people definitely come to that point of realization, but they don't have an idea of just how much of
mm,
their power they're losing. And it's interesting that you talk about, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand and Michelle Obama. Those are global figures, and you're wondering why exactly will you feel like
mm,
we
mm,
will kill ourselves to be in your shoes, right?
mm-hmm,
But that is as real as it gets. I get to interact with a lot of leaders, across different industries, people who are pretty much at the top of their careers. I was talking to a professor, a young professor, a few weeks back who has achieved, right? In fact,
mm,
one of the conversations that we had was, even if you don't do anything, any other thing, till you die, you
mm,
have made a mark.
mm,
And in the course of that conversation, this imposter syndrome came up. And he was talking about how sometimes he feels he may get caught, right?
mm,
And that's how it really gets, because conversations around imposter syndrome, self-doubt is, yes, you talk about the gender part of it, and I'll come to that, but it's really prevalent for achievers, right? For
mm,
achievers. And just before I give more context to that, let's briefly talk about what imposter syndrome in itself is. It's that persistent feeling of being a fraud despite evident success, right? So it's not about the fact that you don't have success, or you've not achieved success, or you don't have something to ride on. It's just that feeling that keeps hanging over your shoulders. And then when we look at self-doubt, self-doubt in leadership, or in the leadership context, is that feeling of uncertainties about your abilities, your decisions, your ability to make decisions, your ability to excel in relationships, your performance, and all of this. But it's it's in a way disproportionately affects leaders. uh I've come to realize that a lot of times those who are high achievers, or those who are in competitive fields, can get stuck in the constant comparison, about how they're doing, where they are, how successful they are, because a lot of people who are on that part of success never really get to pause to
mm,
appreciate themselves, right?
mm,
They're constantly looking for what the next big thing is. And in that search for more, the quest to want to achieve the next thing, the next big thing, then the questions start to come, right? So you've spoken about the KPMG study. Um, you've spoken about quite a number of influential people.
mm,
And yes, I agree that while this is a challenge for everyone, it's a challenge for everyone. Everyone experiences it in one way or the other, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, we all experience it. However, for women, it seems to be more prevalent, right? It seems to be more prevalent. And this seems to be that because of, well, cultural context. There seems to be a lot of expectation for the female. People are putting them on that. the microscope, checking out
mm,
every move, every action. And when you constantly think or feel that you're being monitored,
mm,
you're being scrutinized, a part of you would start to ask more questions, right?
mm,
On the other hand, you have the men, the guys who, yeah, maybe under those kind of pressure, but are not under as much pressure, right? To,
mm,
to be scrutinized for everything, for every action. And I would briefly talk about a conversation that I had with a journalist recently, when there were some, there was an outcry of certain people in political offices, women who seem to have been involved in some form of corruption, allegedly. Um, s- the journalist asked me, and she said, "Oh, so now that this is happening, it seems like a lot of women are." I'm like, okay, let's take it easy there. Where have we seen this? A lot of women. But then the question she asked was, so do you think that more women should be in politics? Should they be given the opportunity to be in politics? Since the few ones that are there, they're messing things up. And I said, in fact, and this is not just a conversation of let's just put more women there. No, if more women are there, right, we won't have a big deal of every outcry, because I said, let's go back to the statistics. Let's see how prevalent this corruption is around the male. But we're
mm,
not amplifying it as one. This is not in any way supporting corruption. No, right? This is to be able to buttress this conversation around the fact that um there's a lot more scrutiny for the women. There's a cultural context to it where, the girl child, the female child just seems to be under this
mhm,
endless microscope,
mm, mm,
where they have expectation of how they should act, what they should be, what they should be doing, what kind of roles they should take, what kind of, roles they should engage in. So
mhm,
that in itself puts a lot of expectation on them and
mm,
can lead to the statistics where we have more women being on the receiving end of situations like having to deal with imposter syndrome in that magnitude of self-doubt. But
I,
everyone sees it somehow.
I agree. I agree. It's like when a young person messes up in politics, I say, you see, young people, you say, give us a chance. Look at the young people that are there. Look at what they are doing. And, I guess that in itself is a flawed argument because the numbers don't justify the clamor that is being made. But Kemi, you started to say something that was very interesting to me. You said part of the reason why it happens is because these high achievers, these people that want more, they don't pause to appreciate themselves. It's like it's just on to the next. We started AGID. Now we're going to start FYXZ. Now we're going to do this. What, what are the, if you like, common, is it triggers or what are the things that we should why do they occur? I'm trying to first of all maybe pick out the triggers or what causes them, and then we can now start talking about maybe how to deal with them.
Okay, all right, great. So I'm going to expand a bit more on that, and I'll give some context and some
Mhm,
examples. So um, it's like someone who you know is addicted to some unhealthy substance, right? What
yep.
leads to that addiction is the clamor for more. They want
Mm,
more of that thing, and then they want
mm,
more of it again, and then they want more of it.
mhm.
Success and achievement can be quite, like
Addictive.
that, right? It can get to the point where we have an unhealthy relationship with that clamor for achievement and success, that even when you achieve something, it doesn't give you that satisfaction anymore, because you just want to do the next thing, right? You just want
Mm,
to go on to the next thing. You want to be able
mm,
to tick off. For
mm,
some, it's the ability to just be in their space and look at that long list and they're excited. You know this feeling you have when you have your to-do list in a day
Yeah.
and then you're just ticking it
Yes.
off. It
Yeah.
feels good. Like you're like, oh yes, I got
Mhm,
this.
mhm,
Also,
mhm,
for a lot of achievers, we get to the point where, and I'm saying we because I find myself there too,
mm,
where it
mm,
just seems
mm,
like, okay, right, we've done this, let's move on to the next.
mm,
And then while you're still on that, you're thinking about the next thing, and it
mm,
just pretty much seems like you're constantly putting yourself under pressure.
mm, mm,
Sometimes this pressure may come from what now seems like an expectation from the outside, right?
mm,
Sometimes it is pressure that we have built on the inside, and
mm,
you know, the adrenaline that we just get from achievement uh,
mhm,
now starts to become toxic. So,
mm,
so it is. I would always say that it boils down to being able to pause,
mm,
right? Reflect, develop a high sense of awareness about who we are, what is important to us, what exactly does success mean? Because
mm,
I realize that when people can define exactly what success mean and then to them, and they're able to put it in perspective, it
mm,
helps them shape the expectation of their reality.
mm,
So success achievement can be quite addictive,
mm,
but I believe that if we're able to get to a higher sense of awareness where we can pause, you know, take a deep breath,
mm,
appreciate our journeys, like just pause and appreciate our journeys. It will and could significantly take off some steam, ease some pressure, and let us get to the point where we can see ourselves for who we are. And when I say see ourselves for who we are, see ourselves for the successes, right? One other thing, yeah.
No, no, no. As you were talking, I was just thinking out loud. I joined government at 27, and my position was principal private secretary to the governor. Everybody I was working with was at least 45 minimum. And there's this young guy, and as I'm walking and I'm looking confident, but in my mind I'm thinking, Shay, what are you doing here? What would these people catch you and say, hey, what are you doing here? How did you get here? You know, and the reason I quickly put that in because sometimes there's a doubt in itself of the success.
Yeah.
You know, there's a part of, oh, I've succeeded already, and I just need to pause and but there's also a part of, are you sure? Are you sure I can actually do this? This is a terrain that is new, is tough. You know, how am I even, do I even fit in? And I remember very, because this is my own confession, this is when I, felt almost like an imposter, like, you're joking. These guys are going to find out that you are just a lawyer, you have no political experience, you're not going to be able to cope managing the office of the
Yeah.
governor of your state, which is one of the biggest states in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So I just want you to maybe also to talk about the self-doubt aspect of it. So it's not just only because you've achieved, but even the very place you are now, it's not about the next achievement. It's just, I'm not even sure I can make it in this one.
Mhm. Yeah, and thank you very much for sharing that. Yeah, so there's a part of the imposter syndrome, and then there's also the part of self doubt. Now, I mentioned earlier that every one of us, like
Mm,
every human being who is reflective, who
mm,
can think,
mm,
will experience self doubt and
mm,
imposter syndrome, right?
mm,
So,
mm,
what we feel when we're asking ourselves those questions, it's a reflection of the dissonance on the inside, where
mhm,
the mind and the body is trying to be sure that you know what you're doing,
mm,
right?
mm,
It's trying to prompt you that okay, are you sure? We understand that you have not,
mm,
but are
mm,
you sure you can do this?
mm,
And you know there's this quote by Brené Brown,
Okay.
and it's one of the quotes that I love so much.
Mm,
She said in that quote that if you go about in the world
mm,
looking for reasons that you don't belong, you will find a
mm,
lot of them, right? You will
mm,
always find you
mm,
get to places and then you feel, "Ah, no, I don't belong here because I'm too young. Oh
mm,
yeah, I don't belong here because I'm too tall. I don't
mm,
belong here because I'm too short.
mm,
No, because of the color of my skin." If you go
mm,
about looking for those,
mhm.
reasons, you will find.
Yeah.
So I usually say that yes, we will feel we'll feel different ways about our experiences, feel different
Mhm.
ways about the present and then the future, but it is about what are we focusing on,
Okay.
right? What are we choosing to focus on now? Self-doubt sometimes it's not as a result of things that have even happened in our present situation. They
Mm,
could be as a result of our previous experiences, right? What
mm,
people have told you about yourself. Oh, but
mm,
you're just so slow. Ah,
mm,
I don't,
mm,
as in, you're not fast at thinking, or
mm,
you're just, I don't understand.
mm,
How do you do your things, right? How did you get here? You
mm,
find people who would want to ask questions and challenge how you even found yourself there in the,
mm,
in the first place.
mm,
And
mm,
I think that when experiences like that go unchecked, and
mm.
when I say unchecked, I don't say unchecked because we can check every experience, because some of these
Sure.
experiences you've dealt with it in the past, right? And some you
Mhm.
don't even know. You don't
Mm,
even know. I know of a lady who, she's a CEO in her business, but at that time you will never find her introduce herself in public. You
mm,
will never find her. She was good at what she was doing, but a part of her felt she was so inadequate. And
mm,
in the course of our conversation, I realized that the inadequacy came from a situation that she experienced over 15 years ago,
mm,
which did not happen to her.
mm,
It happened to someone else, but she encountered or witnessed that incident where somebody was humiliated because she
mm,
forgot her lines. And she
mm,
swore to herself that that would never be her, that she would never be at a point where, she would find herself embarrassed. So her solution to that was never speak anywhere, never speak outside, so that, you don't disgrace yourself. So look at an experience like that that was not lived personally,
mm.
right? She experienced it
Right.
through the eyes of someone, but it has such
Sure.
a huge impact on her. So
Sure.
it's about understanding ourselves,
Mm,
understanding patterns.
mm,
We are finding ourselves in situations where we're constantly asking questions about our ability, about whether
yeah.
we belong. It would be time to start engaging those thoughts. Why exactly do I
Mm,
feel this way?
mm.
Why exactly do I feel like, I don't belong here? Why exactly do I feel they will catch me? What exactly would they catch me for? Right? Because when we can ask those questions, they lead us to start finding answers or finding peace.
Yeah.
Some of the answers could be that, oh, okay, probably that I don't know this thing.
Yeah.
and I need to be able to bridge this gap, and have more information.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
asking the right questions, engaging with ourselves in a way where we're truthful, we're vulnerable, but objective, can
Mm.
significantly help us deal with some of this.
Fantastic. Now, Kemi, let's talk about what this does to the people you are leading. Because sometimes you see some leaders walking around shouting, and part of the shouting is they are not sure of themselves. They they're feeling a lot of self-doubt, so they want to impose themselves. So the you know what in your experience, what does this self-doubt, this syndrome, imposter syndrome, what is the impact it has on leadership? Because thinking back then, I was just thinking, is either I didn't speak up enough, because if I ask a question, they will say, "Shouldn't you know that?" And
Mm.
then I will be exposed that, oh, so you didn't even know these things. So I think the spectrum may be, you know, you don't know it, so you don't want to talk, or you start talking too much and start bullying your way. I don't know. So what impact does it have, and how does this affect the overall organizational performance when you have leaders leading on top that are doubting
Mm.
themselves?
Yeah. So it has a viral effect, right?
Hmm,
It has a
hmm,
viral effect. I'd say
hmm,
that. And one of the most unfortunate thing is that we're not able to put a true cost to it, right? Because
hmm,
sometimes the cost can be direct, sometimes the cost is indirect. But when we
hmm,
have leaders who are on the top of it and who are constantly in that cycle. Now, I should mention that experiencing self-doubt in itself is not wrong. Like it's a natural, it's I don't expect us to turn off our emotions. When you experience self-doubt, you should see it as a sort of data, because your body is telling you something, your brain is telling you something, right? It's telling you something. You have to be here. You think you're
hmm,
gonna, it's telling you something, it's giving you data, right? And it's
hmm,
data that you're supposed to work with. So
hmm,
it is what you're doing with that data that will end up making a huge difference in one way or another. But
hmm,
what you want to be able to understand is that there's something we call the cognitive behavioral triangle or theory, and it
hmm.
talks about how thoughts affect feelings and then feelings affect behaviors. So
Sure.
when a leader has thoughts around inadequacy, right, that
Hmm,
they're not good enough, they don't trust their ability to do well, like I said, it could be a state, right? But when it becomes a cycle, when it becomes a part of them, then
hmm,
there is a huge problem, because just like the relationship between the thoughts, feelings, and behavior that I spoke about, it becomes
yeah.
a revolving cycle. So they don't believe in themselves. When you don't believe in yourself, there's a feeling of, oh, you know what, I'm gonna get caught. Oh, you know what, I need to find a way to not let people see this part of me. So
Hmm,
you cannot be vulnerable.
hmm,
And when all you dispense is that lack of trust, that fear, it's viral.
yeah.
People around you start
Yeah.
to feel uneasy. They're constantly sitting on the edge. They're constant because they don't know what next you will do. What I've also seen over the years is that some leaders who behave like this, or who deal with this, become very erratic, right?
Hmm,
They become very erratic because they're not sure about the next thing to do, and then sometimes they could just find themselves making decisions without really thinking about it. So there's that part of it. And if the quality of our leadership is also evident in the quality of the decisions that we make. So when
hmm,
leaders are in that state of frenzy, they can't think well, they can't make the right decisions, they're constantly in a state of anxiety, they will make wrong decisions, no
hmm,
doubt, right? And that would
hmm,
impact not just the people they lead, but also impact the organizations that they lead. Okay.
hmm,
There's also the place of the viral nature of such behaviors.
hmm,
Now, I've been in situations where I've had to work with leaders who obviously didn't see any problem with themselves,
hmm.
but we're constantly emitting this negative energy of self-doubt.
Hmm,
They just we're not acting right. Let me put it that way,
hmm,
right? And the impact of this was how, sometimes they transfer these behaviors, and then
hmm.
years after, right, those who they have transferred it to find a way to transfer it to other people. And I've
Yes.
seen this trend within, organization. In fact, there's a particular organization where I was able to follow the story of that leader. He left the
Hmm,
organization because he was constantly being verbally abused, but then started his own organization and then became a chief abuser. So there's impact, it's viral, right? It's viral. So we need to be able to understand that. We also need to be able to understand the fact that when leaders are not checking this self-doubt, they're not checking this imposter syndrome, especially when it becomes a lifestyle. For some people it's
hmm,
a lifestyle already, right?
hmm.
When they feel confident, they are troubled, they are disturbed, because
Something is
what
wrong.
they're used to is, oh, okay, I just need to work my, so when everything is calm, they're like, "Ah, there's something wrong." there has to be
mm,
something wrong. Like, am I sleeping? Am I still alive? That kind of thing.
mm,
But
mm,
it's understanding that it doesn't end with you. The impact
yeah,
of this is viral. It doesn't just affect people now, it
mm,
affects people
mm,
for years to come. It
mm,
impacts productivity, it impacts performance, it
mm,
impacts, the overall
mm,
growth of the
mm,
organization. And
mm,
I say that it moves from individual to
mm,
the organizational level. And
mm.
that's why, as leaders, we need to be very, very mindful of this. Like I
Mm.
said, there are direct and indirect costs. Some we will
Sure,
never be able to measure.
sure.
We will not be able to measure them because of the subjective nature in which they happen. But it doesn't mean that it's not costing us heavily.
Mm. Hmm, hmm, amazing. So, you need to check as a leader, what are you emitting? What energy, with the negative energy, because
Yeah,
people are picking up these signals. You don't
yeah,
have to talk. They can sense this leader is unsure. And to be honest, there's nothing worse than following a leader that is doubting every decision, because now you're in trouble, because he says go right, we go right. He said, no, I didn't tell you to go right. Is that what you told us to go? So I can just imagine that. Now, if you have any questions, please start to put it in the comment section. In another 10 minutes or so, we will start taking questions. But Kemi, let's start to talk about, and I think you probably have already started to touch on it. How do we navigate this self-doubt? What are the solutions? What is the way forward? So we've started off saying everybody feels like an imposter at some point in time. Everybody has a level of self-doubt, and it's natural. It's I mean, when I heard the Michelle Obama one, I was like, don't be silly. That can't be true. How can somebody like that, especially if you watch the recent, I mean, she's been an excellent speaker, but just watching her again recently gave me the shivers, that what a speaker, what an individual. And to think somebody like that could say, I felt I wasn't good enough. So it means all of us are going to feel it at one point or the
yeah,
other.
yeah,
So what do we
yeah.
do? What are the solutions? How do we navigate it? What are the coping strategies, practical strategies, or exercises that we need to maybe remind ourselves or do when we start feeling, I'm feeling like an imposter again. What should I do?
Okay. All right. Great question. I always say that the first thing is to start with self, right?
Hmm, hmm,
A lot of people are so particular about the cosmetic work that has to be done. And I'm not saying that is not important, it is important. But beyond, how do they see me? How do you see yourself? Right?
hmm,
That's
hmm,
a journey of being able to navigate self-doubt, this imposter syndrome has to start from the place of self. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not water themselves enough. They don't water themselves first before they want to water other people. And it's something that I've seen a lot on my journey with leaders. We want to
hmm.
lead others, but then we don't start first by leading
Yeah.
ourselves. And you realize that one of the most difficult things to do is actually self leadership. Right.
Hmm,
It's easy to tell people, no, you should do that. You should do this. Oh, we are expected to. But
hmm,
then,
hmm,
when you're having to deal with yourself, you realize how difficult it can be to just push yourself through. So I say that navigating this should start from the place of self. We need to start from the place of self awareness. Um, we need to be able to recognize that self doubt is a normal part of our lives as leaders, right? It's a normal part of our lives, but we need to be able to invest time, energy, effort, getting to know more about ourselves. Who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? I've seen people just playing to the galleries of their weaknesses, and leaving out their strengths, running around.
hmm,
They just, and how they say that there's this quote about when you judge a fish by its ability to climb trees, right? He's going to live the rest of his life thinking it's foolish. So when you understand what your strengths are you playing towards your strengths, right? Are you able to identify and objectively evaluate yourself, evaluate your gaps, for example, right? And when I talk about being able to evaluate yourself, get feedback, it's not just information that you can totally generate yourself. Sometimes you need other people to, tell you stuff about yourself where you are genuinely willing to take the feedback, right? Not Yes, no, no, feel free, be honest, just tell me. And then your posture, everything about you says otherwise. So invest in getting to understand yourself, getting to know your personality. It's amazing the number of leaders out there who have absolutely no idea about personality traits and how they shape and impact their existence, right? Get to understand your personality, get to understand your interests. What are the things you really like? And these things may sound mundane, but they truly help us navigate this journey a lot easier and better. So, what are your interests? What are the things you're passionate about? What is your vision as a person? And what's your personal vision? What are your values? These are tools that we need to be able to build that can help us, really understand ourselves a lot more. Another thing is to be able to acknowledge and normalize these feelings, right? We shouldn't see self-doubt or when we feel that imposter syndrome. Like I said, we need to see it as data. We need to see it as data that our minds, our bodies, our head is trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us something, right? So this something, this data that has been provided to you, is it telling you that you need to move to the next level? Is it telling you that you're done with where you are? Is it telling you that you need to start updating your skills? You need to start learning more things. You need to, take on bigger responsibility. Is this what it's telling you? Is it telling you that you have outgrown the clique of friends and the circles that you belong? Right? What is this information telling you? Is it telling you that you need a new mindset that focuses on learning from failures and setbacks rather than, fearing than fearing them, right? What is it telling you? One other thing that I also think is important is that to navigate this, you also have to be able to shift perspective. Shift perspective. A lot of people spend so much time just focusing on their failures, what they're not good at, rather than getting to see some of those data as opportunity for growth. I work with a lot of leaders, and sometimes we're doing activities around, write out your strengths, write out your weaknesses or growth areas, like I like to call it. And sometimes people are stuck on what their strengths are. Because they're trying to think, really, really think about their strength, but they have no problem with their weaknesses. Some even don't mind getting an extra sheet just to tell you all the things they're not, right? So we need to get to that point where we're shifting our perspective around self-doubt, around failure, around our experiences. Let's start to see them as a fuel for growth. Um, One other thing will be to also focus on achievement, right? And sometimes a lack of focus on achievement is a learned behavior. From primary school, you go home and you get 9/10. What happened to those people that got 10/10? Is it
Yes,
not,
they don't have two heads.
yes. So if that has been your experience or you've experienced that in any form, start to focus on your own achievement. If you need to keep a record, just so that you are reminded, it's not you deserve the right to brag about it. Brag about it in your corner. If you want a notepad, if you prefer to put it on the wall, write out your because sometimes we forget. I remember a time when I was transitioning from paid employment and then I started out my business. I started out and of course things were going fine until they didn't seem like they were going fine anymore. And I'm like, wait, we had this on lockdown. What is happening? And I remember at that time I met a friend, you know, um, she's amazing. And we were just talking about life I think I met her on one of those times where I was doing school pickup, right? And we were talking about life, and I was talking about the things that I'd done, you know. And then she's like, I don't get, like, you've done this. Honestly, it took that conversation to wake me up and say, wait,
Mm,
hold on. You know, we've come
mm,
on a long journey. So,
mhm.
what if we are not documenting it? Because
Yeah,
after that conversation, I started to be intentional about documenting my success. Because sometimes you're just overwhelmed. You're
sure,
just overwhelmed. You know, you're overwhelmed with certain situations, pressures of life that you just forget who you are.
sure,
So focus on those achievements, record your
sure.
successes, your
Mm,
contributions,
mm,
get coaches and mentors to support you where
yeah.
you can seek guidance from that have navigated similar struggles and can help you
Mm,
put things in perspective. Also, be mindful of the circle of friends that you belong to, right? When you're constantly just being with people who all the things they talk about are all the troubles of life, there's nothing progressive. Their
mm,
experiences are so morbid, so
mm,
sad, so dark.
mm.
It becomes what fuels you. You can't see anything good,
Dark energy.
right?
Hmm.
Absolutely. You just become so lost, and then they say misery loves company. You become a part of that company.
May we not be company to such.
Isn't it? You know, and then you also want to be in a place where you're able to um challenge unrealistic expectations, and I think this is also really big, right? Because on this journey to sometimes, and this can be for people who are overachievers, people who are dexterous, uh sometimes things can get really, really, unrealistic. We want to do this. We're dealing with perfectionism. We're doing so many things at the same time. So you want to be in a place where you start to set realistic goals. Now, because they're realistic doesn't mean that they will not challenge you or they should not challenge you. But we need to, probably adopt the SMARTY methodology, setting specific, measurable,
Sure.
actionable, realistic, time bound
Mm,
goals and intelligent goals in a way that you're able to, have something to look forward to, but then you're also able to pace yourself, right?
sure.
Pace yourself. It
Sure.
is it helps. And I think maybe one other thing will be ensure that we're able to take feedback, act on it, and also be authentic. Be
Mm.
authentic. Ensure that you're not
Be
going
the
to
be the
carry the
we.
pressure of the world on your
Mm,
on your shoulders,
mm,
trying to impress
mm.
anyone.
Wow, Kemi, you have said a lot, and I think everyone should really go back and listen to these strategies that our speaker has said. If you're not following us, please follow us on YouTube, especially on Instagram. We will have a replay for you to be able to come back and take, these insights and probably also put actionable steps to it. We also have a survey, we have a community where you can join and we can continue to have this type of conversations within the group. Kemi, as you were speaking, some of those things were pointing to me. I was like, I, you're pinching me with something, and one of it is we need self-care. We are the most critical of ourselves. We are the,
Yeah.
despite everything you have done, you will be the one that will say, what have you done? Self-care, being able to be compassionate to yourself,
Oh yeah.
and almost building failure to, and even if I fail, so what? I learn. Take
Yeah.
failure as a
Yeah.
learning opportunity. I think, there's so many things you said there. Finding mentors, there are always people that have done it before you. And so the ability to just say, look, I'm feeling like an imposter. Or God, please show me the way. And they'll say, look, everybody's been there, everybody's done that. This is what you should do, this is what you should do, and that. And you spoke about journaling, writing things down, being mindful, being present. Just say, look, forget tomorrow, today. All of these things. During elections, I was overwhelmed, I remember the election, would we win? Would we not win? And I had to tell myself, even if we don't, we will win. We will win. But even if we don't, you have done well to this
Absolutely.
extent. And I think these are extremely important things. And
Yeah.
like you also said, there are just some things. Look, Oga, I don't know it. Go and learn it. If you don't know, go and learn. There's no two ways about it. So there's just so much you've said there, and I hope people will really go back and unpack all of this. But our time is moving fast, and I really want to get into the questions that are already in the chat box. So we're just going to have them put up on the screen. Kemi, please just take them one after the other. I think we have quite a few, so I want to be mindful of the time. But please just share with us, and we would love to hear it.
Okay. All right. So I see a question. How can I figure out people with the same vision or of impacting life of people? And secondly, how can I raise funds in order to give back to my society as a leader? Okay, so I'll take the first part of the question, then attempt to answer the second one. But can I have the question back, please? Okay. So how can I figure out people with the same vision of impacting life of people? So I'll say that the first thing I spoke about earlier was being able to just work on your own self-awareness, right? When you develop a sense of awareness where you're able to clearly define what your values are, I think just being able to define your values are naturally helps you ward off some kind of people. They will not be attracted to you, neither would you be attracted to them, right? Because you will not be operating on the same frequency. And it is absolutely okay. But if you have not spent time to say, oh, you know what, I'm a person of integrity, then whether the person is of integrity or not, anything goes. You flow with the flow, go with the river, go to the ocean, and all of that. So I think first, being able to clearly identify your own values, when you can start to identify your values, and somebody defined values are as principles of life that we take seriously enough to live by. So when you can clearly define that, it helps you make choices of the kinds of places you should be, the kind of associations you will belong. Now, when you belong in those kind of associations, you start to find people who have the same vision as yours or who have similar vision as yours. And then if you're going to collaborate to start to do things together, then you can, right? So I hope that helps. The second part of it is, how can I raise funds in order to give back to my society as a leader? And I think SA is in a better position to answer that question. But if I attempt that, I will still draw on the first, my response to the first question. When you are clear about a vision, right, you would also be able to attract people who align to that kind of vision. And when they align to that kind of vision and they can, financially help to bring that vision to life, then they will be able to help you. So first, start with yourself, right? Clarify what this vision is before you can now start looking for people who have the same kind of vision. And then start to find out where they are. When people see that you are passionate about that cause, not because people embark on some of these things for some different reasons, right? Some for selfish reasons. They counter situations where people start NGOs so that they can milk people. People start fundraising. That's a story for another day. But be clear about your own intention, your objectives, your values, and then go for it. When you put that first, when you put value first, you will find people. They say help is on the way, right? Not when you're sitting down. So you start that first, and then you have the help. But Essay, if you have any other things to add to that, please.
No, I think you said it. Ideas rule the world, and provision is two words: pro and vision. It's pro means for, and vision. So provision means for the vision. So first things first is to have the vision, have the idea, have where you're going to, and you will have some people. They will come with their energy, some will come with their money, some will come. So that's how it starts. There's the vision, there is the pursuit of it, and then you have people coming in and chipping in different ways. So I think you've answered that. Even in politics, that's how it works. Somebody has a dream to support, to develop, and then others see it and say, look, I'll support you. I'll put money into your campaign, or I will do this on your behalf. That's how it happens. There's the vision, and then people always rally around the vision.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Alright. Okay, so how do we cope as women who have external pressures that further trigger our doubts? Okay, so this is a great question, and I think in the course of the conversation, I might have touched on some things, but first is let's build from inside out, right? Let's build from inside out. If we want to build from outside in, we will never get to the point where we have so much on the inside to be able to match up with the external pressures. Because first, you don't have control over the external pressures. No matter how much you have built on the inside, you don't know the kind of boost that will come. And that is not for you to try and figure out. It is for you to have prepared yourself and built enough capability, enough on the inside to be able to deal with some of these things when they show up, right? So I would say that the first thing you want to do is to be able to first work on yourself. What kind of person are you? What kind of woman are you? What are your values? What are your skills? It boils down to self-awareness, right? Such that you have been able to build yourself enough that you have built competence, right? Competence where you're not getting opportunities because of tokenism, but you're getting opportunities because you deserve them. You merit those opportunities. So coping will be that you first cope by building yourself, building your level of awareness, defining what your values are, what is important to you, and bridging the gap of competence. What you need to know, what skills, what competencies you need to build across different levels, be it your technical competence, be it your human skill competence, be it your conceptual skill competence, whatever it is. What gaps do you need to be able to bridge? I think when you can do that, because I also don't want us to just focus on the gender card here. I want us to be
Mm.
able to play from the place of value, right? So let's focus on building from the place of value, such that when those external pressures come, we have built so much on the inside enough to be able to deal with it. And what just came to mind is, um um and there's a story about just not understanding what the next thing will be, right? But
Yeah.
that there's a storm. You have been told that there will be a storm, but then you did nothing about it. You didn't try to move away or secure. When the storm comes, what exactly would you do? You may be left stranded. So build on the inside, invest in your own journey as a person first. You have absolutely no control over the external pressures. So when they come, you have something on the inside to be able to tell yourself, you know what, I deserve to be here. I deserve to be here. I have the skills, I have the competence to be here, and I deserve to be. And I believe that would absolutely make a lot of difference.
All right. Next question.
Okay. So Mrs. Kemi, you are really doing a great job. Thank you. How prevalent is imposter syndrome among leaders, and why is it often unspoken? So when we also said the session, there was statistics around this imposter syndrome. There were statistics around how it impacts women, how it impacts people generally. So I won't say that imposter syndrome is just for for women. The numbers clearly tell us that a lot of people experience imposter syndrome. For example, a research by I think International Journal of Behavioral Science says that over 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at different points in their career. And the KPMG research also said that about 75% of female executives have reported experiencing imposter syndrome. So we all experience imposter syndrome. However, you know how it is, because you feel unsure about yourself. I'm not sure it is when you feel unsure that you want to say, "Oh yes, here I am." I am making things happen. So I think there's a sort of shame, right, that comes on the inside with that feeling of inadequacy. But it requires a level of self awareness, a
Mm.
level of comfort in your worth, a level of vulnerability for you to be able to accept and talk about it, right? I've shared some experiences today. SA has shared experiences today, and we're not thinking, if we talk
Mm.
about this, our careers are over.
Mm.
That's it.
Mm.
Nobody's
Mm.
going to see us as a leader again. It goes beyond that. So, yes, people may experience some form of shame. That's probably why it's not often spoken about, but with greater awareness, we would understand that everybody experiences it, and we also have responsibilities to be able to help other people navigate this journey better and easily.
Right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right.
Okay. My second question, a student of ABU Zaria and also the National General Secretary, African Union Student Club, ABU Zaria, Director of Welfare, Faculty of Social Science. So as a student leader, the pressure is so high. So what can I do to be able to balance with my academics? Um, Yeah, so there will always be expectations. I think my answer here, because I can't tell you, oh, do this, this, this. It will be priorities, right? What is important to you, and what what would you yield the greater amount of time, energy, be it your mental energy, your physical energy. What would you yield the most of your energy to? Because your energy is a resource, right? When we talk about resources, you're going to spend time to be able to do all these things that you do. But you're in school for a reason. So it boils down to priority. I'm not going to tell you, oh, you know what, get off the students club so that you can just focus on school. No, what is
Mm.
important to you? So spend some time with yourself, still boiling down to the place of self-awareness, to itemize or list out what is important to you in a scale of or on a scale of 1 to 10, or in the order of priority, and then that should give you enough data and insight to make what would be a good decision, or the best possible decision to achieve your goals. Okay, what is the thesis behind global criticism of leaders in the criticism of leaders in leadership or governance? Is it because of interest, or so I don't fully get the question. I'm trying to uh but if I get you correctly, it's talking about why, why leaders have to experience some of these um issues. And I think what I would say is that naturally, okay, when you are in a position of interest, of power, of influence, uh, there would also be expectations. Okay, there will always be expectations, and with expectations also come multiple perspectives, diversity, multiple interests, which somehow you have to be able to find a way to balance and navigate. So I think whether we like it or not, when you're serving people, people have interest, right? They would ask
Mm.
questions, and if I would share this on a light note, so I love tennis. I play tennis, and before I started playing tennis, it was so easy to see all the faults in Serena at that time. Serena, we had this so close. What happened? And then I felt so confident that, oh yeah, I play tennis. I got myself the gears, got a coach, and then I started to play tennis. But when I got on court, right, it was so interesting how different it was, watching behind the screen and then being right in the center of the action. And sometimes it's also that way for leaders, right? You are watching from the outside, you can see everything that is wrong, but then when you're inside, when you're in it, you may not be able to see those things, or you may have a deeper level of appreciation for those who are on the inside. So yes, there will be criticism because of varying interest. There will be criticism because of varying perspective. There will be criticism because of expectation, and that is why as leaders we need to be clear about what our own vision is, what our values are, what we want to achieve, and then be able to ensure that we have mechanisms in place to help us, you know, stay grounded in that.
Well, I think that is all the questions. As you were talking about tennis, so many of us play football with our mouths, and we tell all these players why they didn't run faster, even though they've been running for 90 minutes and we've been watching for the 90 minutes on our couch. But sincerely, I just really want to say a big thank you. Thank you for your time. I'm not sure if you have any parting words. We've spoken. You shared so much with us tonight, and profound stuff. And we're really grateful. Everyone has self-doubt, everyone has imposter syndrome, but yet you still show up, you still turn up, you still have that confident mien even amidst it all. So I'll just let you have your closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, thank you so much. So you spoke about two key things when you just spoke now, and you spoke about confidence, and then you spoke about competence. And I usually say that for us to be able to get to that place of competence, or confidence rather, we have to develop competence, right? We have to develop competence, and competence has a way of helping us become more confident. There's a quote that I came up with a few years back, and the quote is that you cannot become better at what you do unless you become better at who you are. So this journey is a journey that should begin with you, where you should focus on yourself, focus on who you are, who you want to achieve. Do not try to just wooze that up in a few minutes or seconds and say, oh, I know who I am. I know. No. Self-awareness is a lifelong journey. Self-discovery is a lifelong journey that will not end because you attended this session now, or because you read, the next big book on leadership. It's a lifelong process that you should go on, but build competence, keep building brick by brick, keep building, and never stop celebrating even the smallest of your wins. So
Fantastic. There you have it. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This has been a very interesting session, the second of the series on leadership in the month of September. Again, this is the African Governance Institute for Development. We want to thank you all, our guests tonight, joining in the comment box. And most especially, we also want to thank you, Kemi Ogunkoya, our leader X, our leadership guardian, the one that has been able to help us navigate all of these questions today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience, your personal stories, and your knowledge. And we sincerely, obviously, hope to see you again very soon. And if not on the webinar, certainly in one of our classes, which will be starting very soon. So once again, to everyone that has joined tonight, thank you for joining. Please fill out the survey, help us to serve you better. In the month of October, we're going into diaspora and development. And that's the power of diaspora helping development for national development, which is one of the key thematic areas at the Institute. We said it's leadership, it's governance, and it's national development. And we are looking forward to having guests on the two series in October talking about development, national development from the role of the diaspora. So once again, let me say thank you to everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Until we see you again, stay well.